you can't get there from here. If you have no knowledge of that person, his background, his previous relationships, his family relationships, what are his values, if you can't trust him, that you don't know whether or not he will do what he says, then you don't know if what he says is even correct. There are a lot of people out here that will tell you a lot of things that are not true. If you don't have that trust in him, you can't rely on him. So that if he says or if she says to you, I'm going to be there at 5 o'clock to pick you up, and you rely on that, not realizing that she tends to run a little late. And to her, 2 hours late is not too late. She's going to get there. These are the types of things so these foundational things, the knowledge, the trust, reliance, the commitment, are key factors that you need to get to before you get physically involved with someone. Every 9 minutes, someone in this country is infected with HIV. African American women from the 13 to 19-year-old, and then African American women from 40 plus are the two largest growing sectors of incidence of HIV and AIDS in our community. So when we talk about knowing someone, trusting someone, relying on someone, and having a commitment with someone before you get physically involved, you are literally dealing with life and death situations. Many of the people that have HIV don't know it. And they're just passing it along, and they're just telling you anything they need to tell you so that they can get with you. Well, have you ever been tested? Yes, I get tested every year. Can you rely on that? Can you trust that? Can you believe that? Now, sometimes you can be lucky. Many people have engaged in some of these very risky behaviors, and they have been lucky that nothing has come of them yet. Nothing has happened to them yet. They don't have any of these sexually transmitted diseases yet. But I would suggest to you that you don't want to put your life and perhaps the life of your children and others on a roulette wheel without first establishing these factors in your relationships. And we're going to talk a few seconds here about this the impact of where we are with the touch and the sex. And it's a very unpopular opinion. Significant patterns of behavior stay hidden easily for 3 months. You need to get to know someone and spend time with them longer than 3 months before you even consider that this is a person that you want to have in your life. I can pretend to be most anyone that I want to be in the short run. If you say that you like sports, I love sports. I watch the Super Bowl every year. I'm in the Super Bowl pool. I can pretend to be anything that I want to be to impress you in the short run. I can borrow my brother's car and convince you that I have a Mercedes in the short run. So what you want to do is spend significant time with that person to find out exactly who they are, to get to know them, to get to use some of these other skill sets that we talked about today, these other key factors. And you have to encourage your girlfriends, because I know that oftentimes we buy into the myth that there's not enough men to go around, so when one comes our way, we want to latch onto him and we want to ignore common sense in many cases. But mama, sister, daddy, brother, friends, we have to provide a support network to try to help our relatives, our friends, even people that are in our church, to be real and to recognize that you may go ahead and do that, but that may not be in your best interest. You may go ahead and loan him that money that he said he's going to pay you back, but that may not be in your best interest. You may go ahead and move in with him, but that may not be in your best interest. Because you don't really know who he is. You don't really know who she is. So I want us to do that. And part of that is sex is such a binding element. That's probably why God created it. Because that's how we all got here. I know technology is catching up, and you got some folks that are here that didn't come through the through the normal channels. But for the most part, sex is a very binding element. And what you need to do is be very careful that you have established this other framework here before you get sexually involved. Because oftentimes, just the binding of that will have you bound to someone that is not right for you. And have you trying to save a relationship that's not ever going to go anywhere. Will have you in a relationship and you may find out down the road you don't even know his name. One of my co-workers was married and thought she knew someone and found out she didn't know his real name. He had a child on the way by another woman. He had gotten into her finances and had wreaked havoc. She was married to him. He was married to someone else. And he had involved his friends in a framework to fool her so that he could get access to the financial assets that she had. Get to know people. Help encourage your friends and your circles to get to know other people. Now here's a few tips here. Research has shown that people who live together prior to marriage have a higher incidence of divorce than those who did not. A lot of times we say we're going to live together and try it out and see how that is. A lot of times that helps to postpone any type of real commitment. And a lot of times that creates a revolving door type of mentality that if this doesn't work out, I'm going to just move on to the next one. So be very careful before you decide just to move in with someone, because ultimately you will end up investing in financial decisions together. What happens when the refrigerator breaks? What happens when her car breaks? What happens when we need a new roof? So by default, you put yourself in a situation that you may not be able to recoup from. Lastly, make a decision. I want you to spend the time, a lot of time, getting to know individuals before you start believing that this is the person for me, but don't wait too long. Let me catch up here. Make a decision. You need to interact with that person in many different circumstances and situations and over seasons. You need to see how that person acts when it's summertime. You need to know in wintertime, people have different behaviors sometimes in wintertime. And then when summertime comes, people have some different behaviors in summertime. Now, you all know what I mean? A formal marriage is not necessary to have a committed relationship, but it does have advantages. Marriage makes a statement, a commitment on the parts of both people, both partners. It says that they are committed to each other, that they are willing to make it legal and public. That's why marriage commitments are stronger. When you marry someone, it provides him or her a sense of security, a pledge that can be trusted to be that person is going to be concerned with your companionship needs, with what you need. Providing these needs without a formal marital commitment gives a love partner less trust in each other. So now we may kid ourselves and we may say we don't need that piece of paper, and you may not. But not having that piece of paper means something too. Now, I'm sure I'm not the only one here that knows people that have been engaged 10, 15 years and still, 12 years later, they still engaged. And then one day, he up and married someone else. Have you seen it? Now, in the meantime, she has passed through her reproductive years. Or in the meantime, he has passed through his reproductive years. So understand that there is some significance around that. In our society, all very important matters are handled with formal contracts. Houses, cars, major business transactions, and personal financial matters usually require a formal agreement. None of these is more important than the relationship with a love partner with whom you hope to spend a major portion of your life. Now think of how you would feel if we entered into a major business agreement, and when you asked to sign a contract, I said, I don't sign contracts. More than likely, you'd be suspicious. And you should be. I have gotten my signal. My time is up. We can discuss some of the other things in the question and answers. I thank you for listening, and I thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Thank you.